It was supposed to be the war that ended by Christmas. Instead, by December 1914, the Western Front had become a frozen, muddy nightmare stretching over 400 miles across Belgium and France. Hundreds of thousands of men had already died. And yet, on one silent, frost-bitten night, something happened that no general had ordered, no politician had planned, and no historian quite knew how to explain. Enemy soldiers climbed out of their trenches, walked toward each other across no man's land, and shook hands. To understand what made this moment so extraordinary, you need to understand what these men were living through. The trenches of 1914 were not the organized fortifications they would later become. They were hastily dug ditches, often knee-deep in freezing water and mud, running parallel to enemy lines, sometimes separated by no more than 50 to 100 yards. The men inside them could hear each other cough. They could smell each other's fires. They were close enough to shout insults, and, as it turned out, close enough to share a song. By December, both sides were exhausted. The German army held a slight advantage in terms of dry, better constructed positions, but morale on both sides was fraying. These were not hardened career soldiers for the most part. They were teachers, farmers, clerks, and students, young men who had answered the call of their nations, many of whom had never imagined still being in a trench in winter, let alone facing another Christmas away from home. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1914, something magical and deeply human began to stir along sections of the front. German soldiers, following their cultural tradition, began placing small Christmas trees, called Tannenbaum, along the lips of their trenches, decorated with candles and lit against the cold, black sky. British soldiers peering over their parapets couldn't believe what they were seeing. Tiny, flickering lights, glowing in the dark, where moments before there had only been danger and death. Then came the singing. German voices rose into the night air, carrying the familiar notes of Stille Nacht, silent night. British soldiers listened, stunned. Some began to sing back. Carols floated across no man's land in two languages, weaving together in the freezing air above the barbed wire and the shell craters. For one strange, luminous moment, the war simply stopped. Cautious at first, soldiers on both sides began shouting across the divide. Messages were passed. "Don't shoot tonight. We will not fire if you will not fire." And slowly, with hearts pounding, men began to climb out of their trenches, not with rifles raised, but with hands open. British and German soldiers met in the middle of no man's land, exchanged handshakes, shared cigarettes, passed around bottles of schnapps and tins of bully beef. They showed each other photographs of their wives, their children, their mothers. They were not enemies anymore. For a few precious hours, they were just men. And then someone produced a football. Accounts differ on exactly who kicked it first or where it came from. Some say it was a German soldier, others credit the British side. But across multiple sections of the front, impromptu football matches broke out in the frozen mud of no man's land. Helmets were used as goalposts. Scores were barely kept. Men who had been trying to kill each other days before were now laughing, sliding in the mud, celebrating goals in two languages. It was chaotic, joyful, and utterly surreal. The generals were not amused. High command on both sides was horrified. Fraternizing with the enemy was a serious offense, technically punishable under military law. Orders quickly came down through the ranks. This was to stop immediately. War could not function if soldiers started seeing the enemy as human beings. The machinery of war depended on dehumanization, and here in the mud of Flanders, that machinery had broken down completely. But for those hours, and in some sections of the front for days afterward, the truce held. Soldiers helped each other bury their dead, those who had fallen in the weeks prior and still lay uncollected in no man's land. They traded buttons, badges, and belt buckles as souvenirs. One German soldier gifted a British officer a decorated pipe. A British soldier gave a German his last bar of chocolate. These were not grand gestures. They were small, human ones, and they were all the more powerful for it. It's important to note that the Christmas Truce of 1914 was not universal. Fierce fighting continued in some sections of the front that very night. Not every soldier participated. Not every unit was willing or able. And yet the truce happened in enough places, involving enough men, to enter history as one of the most remarkable acts of spontaneous peace ever recorded in wartime. The men who lived through it never forgot it. Veterans described it decades later with a kind of reverence, a sense that they had witnessed something that shouldn't have been possible, but was. Something that reminded them, in the darkest of times, what they were actually fighting for, and what they might be fighting against. The war, of course, resumed. There would be no such widespread truce in 1915 or 1916 or any year after. The machinery of the Great War ground on for 4 more brutal years, claiming millions of lives. But that one Christmas night in 1914, when candles burned on the front lines, when carols echoed across the wire, and when young men from 2 nations chose, just for a moment, to be human, that night has never been forgotten. It stands as proof that even in the worst moments in human history, decency can find a way through. Follow Empire Echoes for more incredible history stories.